Don't translate the text, just listen. Let your brain get used to the sound and rhythm. Then, listen and repeat out loud. It's the best way to learn to recognize English easily, even when it's fast and long.
Jane Eyre, Charlotte Bronte. Chapter 3. My First Impressions of School. Mrs. Reed arranged for me to leave on the 19th of January. I had to get up very early to catch the coach, but Bessie helped me to get ready. "Will you say goodbye to Mrs. Reed, Jane?" she asked. "No," she said, "I shouldn't disturb her so early. Anyway, I don't want to say anything to her. She's always hated me." "Oh, Miss Jane, don't say that." "Goodbye to Gateshead," I shouted wildly as we walked together out of the front door to wait for the coach in the road. It arrived, pulled by 4 horses and full of passengers. The coachman took my luggage and called me to hurry up. Bessie kissed me for the last time as I held tightly to her. She shouted up to the coachman, "Make sure you take care of her. 50 miles is a long way for a young child to go alone." "I will," he answered. The door was closed and the coach rolled off. What a strange feeling to be leaving Gateshead, my home for the whole of my childhood. Although I was sad to say goodbye to Bessie, I was both excited and nervous about the new places I would see and the new people I would meet. I do not remember much about the journey, except that it seemed far too long. We stopped for lunch to change the horses. Then, in the afternoon, I realized we were driving through countryside. I slept for a short time, but was woken when the coach stopped. The door opened and a servant called in. "Is there a little girl called Jane Eyre here?"
"Yes," I answered, and was helped out of the coach with my luggage. Tired and confused after the journey, I followed the servant into a large building, where she left me in a sitting room. In came a tall lady, with dark hair and eyes, and a large pale forehead. I discovered that she was Miss Temple, the head mistress of Lowood School. She looked at me carefully. "You are very young to be sent alone. You look tired, are you?" she asked, putting her hand kindly on my shoulder. "A little, ma'am," I replied. "How old are you, and what is your name?" "I'm Jane Eyre, ma'am, and I'm 10 years old." "Well, I hope you will be a good child at school," she said, touching my cheek gently with her finger. I was taken by a teacher, Miss Miller, through the silent corridors of the large school, to the long, wide schoolroom. There, about 80 girls, aged from 9 to 20, sat doing their homework. I sat on a bench near the door with my slate. "Put away the lesson books and fetch the supper trays," called Miss Miller. 4 tall girls removed all the books, then went out and returned with trays which were handed round. Each child could have a drink of water out of the shared cup, and could take a small piece of biscuit. Then we all went quietly upstairs to the long, crowded bedroom, where 2 children shared every bed. I had to share Miss Miller's, but I was so tired that I fell asleep immediately. In the morning, the ringing of a bell woke me, although it was still dark. I got dressed quickly in the bitter cold of the room and washed when I could. There was only 1 basin for 6 girls. When the bell rang again, we all went downstairs, 2 by 2, and silently entered the cold, badly lit schoolroom for prayers. As the bell rang a 3rd time to indicate the beginning of lessons, the girls moved into 4 groups around 4 tables, and the teachers came into the room to start the Bible class.
I was put in the bottom class. How glad I was when it was time for breakfast. I had hardly eaten anything the day before. But the only food served to us was porridge, which was burnt. It was so disgusting that we could not eat it, so we left the dining room with empty stomachs. After breakfast came the one happy moment of the day, when the pupils could play and talk freely. We all complained bitterly about the uneatable breakfast. Lessons started again at 9 o'clock and finished at 12, when Miss Temple stood up to speak to the whole school. "Girls, this morning you had a breakfast which you couldn't eat. You must be hungry, so I have ordered a lunch of bread and cheese for you all." The teachers looked at her in surprise. "Don't worry, I take responsibility for it," she told them. We were delighted and all rushed out into the garden to eat our lunch. Nobody had taken any notice of me so far, but I did not mind that. I stood alone outside, watching some of the stronger girls playing, trying to forget the bitter cold, and thinking about my life. Gateshead and the Reed family seemed a long way away. I was not yet used to school life. And what sort of future could I look forward to?
As I wandered, I saw a girl near me reading a book. I felt brave enough to speak to her, since I too liked reading. "Is your book interesting? What is it about?" I asked. "Well, I like it," she said after a pause, looking at me. "Here, have a look at it." I glanced quickly at it, but found it too difficult to understand, so I gave it back. "What sort of school is this?" I asked. "It's called Lowood School. It's a charity school. We're all charity children, you see. I expect your parents are dead, aren't they? All the girls here have lost either one or both parents." "Don't we pay anything? Is the school free?" I asked. "We pay, or our relations pay, $15 a year for each of us. That isn't enough, so some kind ladies and gentlemen in London pay the rest. That's why it's called a charity school." "Who is Mr. Brocklehurst?" was my next question. "His mother built this part of the school. He's the manager and looks after all financial matters. He lives in a large house near here." I did not see her again until during the afternoon lessons, when I noticed that she had been sent to stand alone in the middle of the schoolroom. I could not imagine what she had done to deserve such a punishment, but she did not look ashamed or unhappy. She was lost in thought and did not seem to notice that everyone was looking at her. If that happened to me, I thought, I would be so embarrassed. After lessons, we had a small cup of coffee and half a piece of brown bread, then half an hour's play, then homework. Finally, after the evening biscuit and drink of water, we said prayers and went to bed. That was my first day at Lowood. Chapter 4. Making a Friend. The next morning we got up in the dark as before, but the water was frozen, so we could not wash. It was freezing cold in all the rooms. This time the porridge was not burnt, but I still felt hungry as the quantity was so small. I stayed in the bottom class, but noticed the girl that I had been talking to was in another class. Her surname seemed to be Burns. Teachers called girls by their surnames in this school. Her class were studying history, and her teacher, Miss Scatcherd, appeared constantly annoyed by her. "Burns, hold your head up, can't you? Burns, don't stand like that." The history questions asked by Miss Scatcherd sounded very difficult, but Burns knew all the answers. I kept expecting the teacher to praise her, but instead she suddenly cried out, "You dirty girl, you haven't washed your hands this morning." I was surprised that Burns did not explain that none of us could wash our faces or hands because the water had been frozen. Miss Scatcherd gave an order.
Burns left the room and returned carrying a stick. The teacher took it and hit Burns several times with it. The girl did not cry or change her expression. "Wicked girl," said Miss Scatcherd. "Nothing will change your dirty habits." Later that day, during the play hour, I found Burns alone by the fireside, reading the same book as before, and I started talking to her. "What is the rest of your name?" I asked. "Helen," she replied. "Do you want to leave Lowood?" "No, why should I? I was sent to school here, so I must learn as much as I can."
"But Miss Scatcherd is so cruel to you," I burst out. "Cruel? Not at all. She is strict, and she sees my faults." "If I were you, I'd hate her," I cried. "If she hit me with a stick, I'd seize it and break it under her nose." "I don't think you would," answered Helen quietly. "And if you did, Mr. Brocklehurst would send you away from school, and your relations would be upset. Anyway, the Bible tells us to do good, even if other people hurt us. Sometimes you have to put up with some hard things in life." I could not understand her ideas, but I had a feeling she might be right. I looked at her in wonder. "You say you have faults, Helen. What are they? To me, you seem very good." "You are wrong," she answered. "I'm untidy and careless, and I forget the rules. I read when I should be doing my homework. You see, Miss Scatcherd is right to scold me." "Is Miss Temple as strict as that?" I asked. A soft smile passed over Helen's normally serious face. "Miss Temple is full of goodness. She gently tells me of my mistakes and praises me if I do well. But even with her help, I don't concentrate properly in class. I just dream away the time, and then I can't answer the teacher's questions." "But today in history, you knew all the answers," I said. "I just happened to be interested, that's all," she replied. "I expect you were always interested in Miss Temple's lessons, because you like her and she is good to you." "I'm like that. I love those who love me, and I hate those who punish me unfairly." "You should read the Bible and do what Christ says. People who believe in God should love their enemies," said Helen. "Then I should love Mrs. Reed and her son John, which is impossible," I cried. Helen asked me to explain what I meant, and listened carefully to the long story of what I had suffered at Gateshead. "Well," I asked impatiently at the end, "isn't Mrs. Reed a bad woman? Don't you agree with me? It's true she has been unkind to you, because she dislikes your faults, as Miss Scatcherd dislikes mine. But look how bitterly you remember every angry word. Wouldn't you be happier if you tried to forget her scolding? Life is too short to continue hating anyone for a long time. We all have faults, but the time will come soon when we die, when our wickedness will pass away with our bodies, leaving only the pure flame of the Spirit. That's why I never think of revenge. I never consider life unfair. I live in calm, looking forward to the end." For a moment we both stayed silent. Then one of the big girls came up, calling, "Helen Burns, go and put away your work and tidy your drawer immediately, or I'll tell Miss Scatcherd." Helen sighed and, getting up, silently obeyed. Chapter 5. Mr. Brocklehurst's Visit and Its Results. It was difficult for me to get used to the school rules at Lowood and to the hard physical conditions. In January, February, and March, there was deep snow, but we still had to spend an hour outside every day. We had no boots or gloves, and my hands and feet ached badly. We were growing children, and needed more food than was provided. Sometimes the big girls bullied us little ones and made us hand over our tea-time bread or evening biscuit. One afternoon, when I had been at Lowood for 3 weeks, a visitor arrived. All the teachers and pupils stood respectfully as he entered the schoolroom. I looked up. There, next to Miss Temple, stood the same black column which had frowned on me in the breakfast room at Gateshead. I had been afraid he would come. I remembered only too well Mrs. Reed's description of my character, and the promise he had given her to warn teachers at Lowood about my wickedness. Now they would consider me a bad child forever. At first, Mr. Brocklehurst spoke in a murmur to Miss Temple. I could just hear because I was at the front of the class. "Tell the housekeeper she must count the needles and only give out one at a time to the girls. They lose them so easily. And Miss Temple, please make sure the girls' stockings are mended more carefully. Some of them have a lot of holes." "I shall follow your instructions, sir," said Miss Temple. "And another thing which surprises me, I find that a lunch of bread and cheese has been served to the girls recently. Why is this? There is nothing about it in the rules. Who is responsible?" "I myself, sir," answered Miss Temple. "The breakfast was so badly cooked that the girls couldn't possibly eat it, so they were hungry."
Madam, listen to me for a moment. You know that I am trying to bring up these girls to be strong, patient, and unselfish. If some little luxury is not available, do not replace it with something else, but tell them to be brave and suffer, like Christ himself. Remember what the Bible says: "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by the word of God." Madam, when you put bread into these children's mouths, you feed their bodies, but you starve their souls. Miss Temple did not reply. She looked straight in front of her, and her face was as cold and hard as marble. Mr. Brocklehurst, on the other hand, now looked round at the girls, and almost jumped in surprise. What is that girl with red hair? With curls, madam, with curls everywhere." "That is Julia Severn," said Miss Temple quietly. "Her hair curls naturally, you see." "Naturally, yes, but it is God we obey, not nature. Miss Temple, that girl's hair must be cut off. I have said again and again that hair must be arranged modestly and plainly. I see other girls here with too much hair. Yes, I shall send someone tomorrow to cut all the girls' hair." "Mr. Brocklehurst," began Miss Temple. "No, Miss Temple, I insist. To please God, these girls must have short, straight hair and plain, simple clothes." He was interrupted by the arrival of 3 ladies, who had unfortunately not heard his comments on dress and hair. They all wore the most expensive clothes and had beautiful, long, curly hair. I heard Miss Temple greet them as the wife and daughters of Mr. Brocklehurst. I had hoped to hide my face behind my slate while Mr. Brocklehurst was talking, so that he would not recognize me. But suddenly, the slate fell from my hand and broke in 2 on the hard floor. I knew only too well what would happen next. "A careless girl," said Mr. Brocklehurst quietly, almost to himself. "The new girl I see. I must not forget to say something to the whole school about her." And then to me, aloud, "Come here, child." I was too frightened to move, but 2 big girls pushed me towards him. Miss Temple whispered kindly in my ear, "Don't be afraid, Jane. I saw it was an accident." Her kindness touched me, but I knew that soon she would hear the lies about me, and then she would hate me. "Put the child on that chair," said Mr. Brocklehurst. Someone lifted me up onto a high chair so that I was close to his nose. Frightened and shaking, I felt everyone's eyes on me. "You see this girl?" began the black marble column. "She is young. She looks like an ordinary child. Nothing about her tells you she is evil. But she is all wickedness. Children, don't talk to her. Stay away from her. Teachers, watch her. Punish her body to save her soul. If indeed she has a soul. Because this child, I can hardly say it, this child is a liar." "How shocking," said the two Brocklehurst daughters, each wiping a tear or two from their eyes. "I learned this fact," continued the great man, "from Mrs. Reed, the kind lady who took care of her after her parents' death and brought her up as a member of the family. In the end, Mrs. Reed was so afraid of this child's evil influence on her own children that she had to send her here. Teachers, watch her carefully."
The Brocklehurst family stood up and moved slowly out of the schoolroom. At the door, my judge turned and said, "She must stand half an hour longer on that chair, and nobody may speak to her for the rest of the day." So there I was, high up on the chair, publicly displayed as an ugly example of evil. Feelings of shame and anger boiled up inside me. But just as I felt I could not bear it any longer, Helen Burns walked past me and lifted her eyes to mine. Her look calmed me. What a smile she had! It was an intelligent, brave smile, lighting up her thin face and her tired gray eyes. When all the girls left the schoolroom at 5 o'clock, I climbed down from the chair and sat on the floor. I no longer felt strong or calm, and I began to cry bitterly. I had wanted so much to make friends at Lowood, to be good, to deserve praise. Now nobody would believe me, or perhaps even speak to me. Could I ever start a new life after this? "Never," I cried. "I wish I were dead." Just then Helen arrived, bringing my coffee and bread. I was too upset to eat or drink, but she sat with me for some time, talking gently to me, wiping away my tears and helping me to recover. When Miss Temple came to look for me, she found us sitting quietly together. "Come up to my room, both of you," she said. We went to her warm, comfortable room upstairs. "Now tell me the truth, Jane," she said. "You have been accused, and you must have the chance to defend yourself." And so I told her the whole story of my lonely childhood with the Reed family and of my terrible experience in the Red Room. "I know Dr. Lloyd, who saw you when you were ill," she said. "I'll write to him and see if he agrees with what you say. If he does, I shall publicly tell the school you are not a liar. I believe you now, Jane," and she kissed me. She turned to Helen. "How are you tonight, Helen? Have you coughed a lot today?" "Not very much, ma'am." "And the pain in your chest?" "It's a little better, I think." Miss Temple examined Helen carefully and sighed a little. Then she gave us some tea and toast. For a while I felt I was in heaven, eating and drinking in the warm, pretty room with kind Miss Temple and Helen. But when we reached our bedroom, Miss Scatcherd was checking the drawers. "Burns," she said, "yours is far too untidy. Tomorrow, all day, you will wear a notice on your forehead saying untidy." Helen said Miss Scatcherd was quite right, and wore the notice all the next day. But I was furious,
and at the end of the afternoon tore it off her head and threw it in the fire. When Miss Temple received a letter from Dr. Lloyd, agreeing that what I had said was true, she told the whole school that I had been wrongly accused and was not a liar. From that moment, I felt I was accepted and set to work to learn as much as I could and make as many friends as possible.
To be continued. Good luck.